So Stan Lee died, and to honor his passing, my partner introduced me to this reality show called Stan Lee's Who Wants to Be a Superhero. This is a show where people compete to be the next big superhero, which doesn't make much sense in that they exist outside of fiction. And I must stress that the people on this show aren't amateur superheroes like those vigilantes you hear about. These are just regular people who want to appear in their own sci-fi original movie. The show was made in 2006, and I'd wager that post-2000, this was like the low point of superhero pop culture. We were past the good Spider-Mans and the good X-Men's, and stuff like The Dark Knight was way off, let alone the entire MCU. So we're left with this fairly standard elimination show that seeks to find the best superhero. Now this doesn't mean that the contestants are cosplayers or comics writers trying to get their creation approved. As far as I can tell, these people just threw together a costume and came to an audition. It starts fairly normal. For a second you get to see some wacky performers, like people you'd expect to see in the touristy parts of a big city, and you're like, what do they do? And you never get to find out because Stan Lee only wants the best.
My name is Ice Bitch.
But once the main crop of contestants is chosen, it just gets more serious, and the longer you spend with it, the further you're sucked into this strange constructed universe where everything is fake and sincere at once, and reality is a relative concept, and soon you don't know who you are anymore. Stan Lee never appears in person. He's just on every screen like some omniscient virus. What's weird is that the contestants pitch their super personas first, and are almost discouraged from exhibiting their real-life personalities. You've got Taveculus, who is this centurion gladiator kind of guy. He's kind of in character, but most of the time he just looks a little perturbed, which is confusing. Monkey Woman is incredible, and has a devotion to her character that doesn't quite veer into off-putting. She also has this simple, very 90s look that reminds me of Xena or Power Rangers or something. Her highlight is when she wrestles with actual attack dogs for 9 minutes straight, powering herself with sheer will. You'd think that kind of incredible feat would guarantee her immunity for a while, but no, she gets sent home in the next episode for revealing her name to a cute guy.
It's nice to meet you. I'm Monkey Woman, aka Mary.
Oh, Mary, okay.
Yeah, I need to mention, this show is incredibly harsh with rules that feel like they're made up on the fly, and if you slip up once, you're gone. Creature is a white lady with dreads and raver gear, and is therefore your placeholder least favorite. Feedback is defined by his sole characteristic, which is that he never ever breaks character even a little. Even in rudimentary background shots, he's always reacting in full to the situation. I was watching closely trying to find some laugh at how silly this all was, or even a glance that portrayed a regular person, and no, this guy is just completely lost in himself like a real-life tick. In the challenge where the group must pick up takeout from this restaurant, and the waitress asks them their secret identity, almost everyone fails the test except Feedback, who withholds his identity, but only because I think he doesn't know. My favorite thing about Feedback is that he's got all the mannerisms of a superhero down to a T, and yet his posture is just slightly off. Lumeria is a 29-year-old wine mom whose superpower is wardrobe malfunctions. Lumeria is special because she apparently was voted on by fans and didn't go through the airtight Stan Lee vetting process, but that just makes her entire presence a bit more baffling. Major Victory is this Jim Carrey-esque wacky dad figure whose timer for being annoying gets shorter the further into adulthood you are. The guy's an ex-stripper, which is no stretch to imagine, but he's shamed for it at every turn, and it's kinda heartbreaking. Like, there's a part where he's made to confess to the group what he used to do, and it almost reads like a sex criminal having to go door to door in their new neighborhood. It's awful.
I'm not saying to hit a pole, kids. I'm not saying do that.
I was just trying to say that I've learned from my mistakes and kids should know what I did was wrong.
Fat Mama is the regular of the group, i.e. someone you could imagine having an actual conversation with.
My 3 kids inspired me to be here, and I want to prove to them that just because you're fat and overweight doesn't mean that you can't be happy and do the things that other people do. I'm going to rid the world of bullies one donut at a time.
She's just a nice lady who wants to impress her kids by sending a message of self-acceptance to the world. She doesn't really care about superheroes. I'm not sure if she even knows who Stan Lee is. She just has a wholesome message to send to the world and doesn't expect to stay in the competition for long. So naturally she makes it to the finale. I would explain the structure of the show, but there really isn't any. They get through an average of 2 eliminations per episode because everyone involved just wants to get things over with. Some challenges kind of invoke being a superhero, like walking blindfolded over a beam or getting past guard dogs. But most are just these menial tasks like picking up fast food or getting changed in public and sprinting to a finish line. Of course they're timed, but there's this crying girl placed in public who they're clearly supposed to help. Most just run straight past her, and it's never not funny.
Help me! Help me!
They also visit a school to impress some kids, which results in this wonderful moment.
Okay, how about Jack?
Did you make all this up or are you just nuts?
In one challenge, they're made to go out on the streets and just force their good deeds upon strangers who probably want to get on with their day. I would honestly love it if one of them stumbled upon a high-profile, dangerous cocaine deal and Stanley is just watching from his screen like, well, prove your worth. For me, this show is characterized by the extremely harsh and arbitrary reasons for elimination. Stanley does his usual thing where he talks to everyone like they're six and no one minds because he's Stan Lee. Overall, you get the impression that the producers looked at this set of weirdos on their show and just had no idea what to do with them and decided to start culling them as quick as possible. For example, there's Levity. He's the first to arrive and tells us about his custom action figure business and that he wants to get an openly gay superhero in the mainstream. And it sounds very nice. But once the group is together, they're introduced to Stan Lee via TV screen, taken in a limo to a rundown neighborhood. Then they open a door with another Stan Lee screen on it, and are then punished for the small talk they made upon arriving. And it's revealed that one of the heroes is a mole, and that he's been getting dirt on everyone.
Custom action figures.
Do you make yourself as an action figure?
Yes.
So this is kind of a clever way. Like, you become an action hero on this show, and then you sell action figures of yourself.
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
I mean, you can make millions off this show.
Yeah.
Because Levity admitted after being prompted that he would maybe like to make some money from his superhero, he's immediately asked to leave and made to put his costume in the garbage in front of the whole group. Like, it's blatant entrapment, and it's amazing to know that this guy's tenure on the show amounted to a meet and greet and a ride in a limo. The random eliminations go further when the contestants get their super costumes revamped so they go from looking like amateur cosplay to slightly better amateur cosplay. Teveculus, who already had one of the best costumes, gets this hideous toddler's soft play ice hockey kit with a brush on top, and he's clearly not happy with it. Yet when faced with Stan Lee, the man who shaped superheroes in the modern consciousness, of course he awkwardly plays along.
Today, my fantasy's been fulfilled. I am a superhero. No. By the source of light, I am Tybeculus. Yes. I love it, sir.
Then after being mocked by feedback, he's called back to the Stan TV, and upon sharing his true gripes, he's allowed to don his old costume. It's kind of sweet, but later, he's called up for elimination anyway, on the grounds that he wasn't immediately honest about his opinions. Like, obviously because it's about superheroes, the show is concerned with virtues and good deeds, but these people can't literally fight crime or save anyone from life-threatening situations, so they're just nitpicked for their moral fiber in this 1984-esque dystopia. I honestly don't know how anyone can survive this show. You could literally be Peter Parker and get sent home for not wiping your shoes properly. Stan Lee is portrayed as some kind of cyber tech god who can hack any screen and speak to the heroes anywhere, like even from the garbage. When it comes to authenticity, it's less a question of how scripted is it and more how not scripted is it. I know that every reality TV show is controlled to a degree, with producers wielding authorial control in a way that sometimes rivals fiction, but some of the stuff here is so constructed with actual reverse shot reactions, the show has to either assume the audience is in on the joke, or that they have zero understanding of how TV production or visual media works. It really morphs into something new at the end of the second episode when Iron Enforcer is eliminated. He just takes it as Stan Lee lists a bunch of out-of-nowhere reasons for his elimination, like a principal with a grudge. And you think he's glad to be done with this so he can pursue his career as a scary wrestler. But then this happens.
You make a lousy superhero, but you'd make a great supervillain.
The show just makes no effort to avoid the artifice. He's clearly a plant, and he's clearly delivering a set line. You'd have to be a literal child to actually think this happened organically. And even then, I think you'd find it kind of weird. The show is this dizzying dance of layers of sincerity where you never know how serious anyone is taking the game, or even what character you're looking at. Are you watching the superhero, the alter ego playing the superhero, the actor playing the alter ego playing the superhero, or just some schlub who doesn't have an agent yet? Normally, you only have to deal with the artifice and the fictional construct it wishes to present, but here it's as if reality itself is refracted into 1,000 different forms, none of which you can properly grasp. For example, the contestants live together as is part of the course for a show of this time, but they're never shown out of their superhero costumes. They're always expected to perform their persona, even when being accommodated in this Big Brother living situation. Contestants will half-ass challenges and just have a bit of fun, and you'll be like, okay, it's just a dumb show, it doesn't matter. But no, once they get to the eliminations, everyone gets all teary and sincere, and you ask yourself, do they really care this much? Are they acting? Did Stan Lee make them react like this? By about halfway through the season, I didn't trust anything I saw. When Major Victory gets put on the phone with his estranged daughter, I just didn't know what to think. Were those real tears? Does he even have a daughter? The absolute nadir of this simulacra and nightmare comes when the contestants must interview dangerous inmates in a prison complex. Now, I have to admit, for a second, I totally bought this, and I just sat there gobsmacked for a minute. I was that far down the rabbit hole. Obviously, this is all scripted, with actors being as intimidating as they can, so it ends up like this very high-budget improv.
When I get really angry, I can grow 5 times my size. And then I just stomp the out of people.
But still, they're given these demeaning tasks where they have to basically violate the inmate's personal space a number of times for points. It's like something that would be on TV in RoboCop. It's dystopian and awful, and provides some of the more profoundly awkward moments of the show.
Who got killed?
My father.
My dad killed himself.
So we finished?
My favorite superhero by far is Cell Phone Girl. Now you might ask yourself, with a name like that, what's her power? Just making a call on her cell phone? And you'd be wrong. She never even uses her cell phone. She just has one with her.
I love cell phones. I'm always on the phone. I love staying in touch with people. So when it came to being a superhero, I just knew I was Cell Phone Girl.
I love Cell Phone Girl because she's a blatant insult to an already very silly show. Everyone else either resembles a superhero or at least has a consistent theme, but not Cell Phone Girl. She has a lifeless, half-baked idea that most people would discard immediately, and yet she has the gall to pitch it directly to Stan Lee of all people. Like, how did this woman get past the audition stage? I could understand if it was an absurd, so bad it's good kind of idea, but it's nothing. It's honestly like you asked someone to invent a superhero on the spot, and they just looked around and went with the first thing they saw on the desk. She doesn't even try when it comes to the challenges. Monkey Woman lasted 9 minutes against the attack dogs, and after complaining about a headache, Cell Phone Girl barely goes 4 seconds before calling the dog safe word.
I have a horrible headache, and those dogs just made it worse.
Being a superhero is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be.
In the show's single moment of logic and consistency, Cell Phone Girl goes home in the 2nd episode.
Well, like you said, one of the reasons I gave was a headache, and I still have a terrible headache right now.
And she is actually visually upset about not winning.
I am definitely disappointed. You know, you put so much time and effort into something.
Like, did you put effort in? It might sound like I'm dunking on Cell Phone Girl, but I'm really not. I admire her shamelessness. But honestly, I just feel bad for Levity and Nitro G, who must now go the rest of their lives knowing that they were beaten by this woman. If I had to ascribe the show an actual protagonist, it would definitely be Fat Mama. She's clearly not as invested as the other contestants, and you just feel sorry for her the further everything descends into madness. The final 3 are her, Major Victory, and Feedback, and at this stage, everything gets really serious really quick.
I'm just here to have a good time and to make a point to my kids. But this is Feedback's life, his whole life.
I was really worried about Fat Mama. She locked herself in the bathroom and refused to come out. unless she could talk to one of the executive producers of the show.
She even requests to leave the show, and the producers don't let her.
Just feel bad for her feedback.
They can't send feedback home because it's his passion that freaked her out in the first place. So almost as a show of force, they get rid of Major Victory, even though he won both his challenges that week. This show has no rhyme or reason, it's just chaos that Stan Lee casually presides over like some ambivalent god. So the show ends with this absurd face-off between Feedback, a man whose passion for superheroes is exceeded only by the effort he puts in.
He can crush me with a word, just like he can lift me up into the sky with another.
And Fat Mama, who really feels in over her head and just wants to leave at this point. We see a flashback to her audition to show how far she's come, and she's so much more exuberant and energetic, and it's just plainly clear that the show has broken her. She clearly just never wanted to be this involved, and the show just won't permit her the sweet release of elimination. The very idea that there's any contention over who the winner will be is honestly laughable at this stage. The final challenge involves flying through the air on a stunt set in front of a green screen, and Feedback is just living out his dream, and Fat Mama doesn't even want to do it, because she's probably thinking of the expensive medical bills she could incur. The show ends with minimal fanfare, crowding Feedback the winner at Universal Resort in front of some tourists who are just passing by. They all but blatantly state that he's winning because of how much he wants it, and how much he idolizes Stan Lee, and it serves to frame him as this mid-30s Charlie Bucket. I've been making fun of this show, but a part of me adores it and finds it precious, and considers it worthy of my protection. I want this on Steelbook Blu-ray. So after this venture into fakery and artifice where nothing makes sense and I don't know what's real, I thought I should probably get away from the internet a while, spend some time outside, appreciate nature. But no, there's season 2.